Open the Bridgewater Finance Committee for December 4th, 2023 at 7:33 p.m. First order of business is approval of our meeting minutes from October 30th. Any comments, questions, discussion?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. If you could do a roll call, please, Josh.
Nate.
I will abstain.
MJ.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on to public comments. I would ask if there's any public comments that you state your name and your street address for the record. Do we have any public comment this evening? Okay, not hearing any. We will move on to the next order of business, which is old business. We don't have any old business that we'll bring up this evening, unless somebody has something. Okay, not hearing anything. We'll move on to new business. And before we start, I would like to say welcome to our newest member, Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thank you. I have to correct this next time. That's my maiden name. Catherine Lindstrom is my name. So it's good to meet everyone.
All right.
Hello.
We're excited to have you on the committee, and you've been sworn, obviously. You've been down to the town clerk's office.
Yes.
So you are, obviously you can vote this evening. If you don't feel comfortable, you can just listen in and abstain if that's what you feel comfortable doing, Catherine.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And hello, Julie. I see Julie's just joined us.
Sorry, I was late.
Come on, Julie. Okay, so our first order of new business is FY 24-015, the Sewer Enterprise Fund. Basically, we're being asked to recommend the transfer money from our retained earning fund to another fund. Lori, do you have anything that can help enlighten everybody here?
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this order goes back to the original order that we voted back last spring for the sewer fund budget. At the time, we thought we were going to raise the sewer rate. So we increased the revenues a little based on, that action, but we didn't raise them yet. We're going to be coming for you a slight increase for July of 2024. So we're just adjusting down the revenue, and in order to fund the rest of the operations, we're just putting in a safety net of retained earnings into the operations, which we don't expect to use it, but it's just something that is a clean process that is helpful for when we set the tax rate. DOR likes to see us very conservative and cautious, and always making sure that we are budgeting conservatively and making sure we're paying attention to all the numbers. So this is kind of like a check to the DOR that we're properly reporting and properly submitting everything.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Does anybody have questions for Lori? Any comments? Okay, not hearing any. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. If you could do a roll call, please, Josh.
Nate.
Aye.
MJ.
Aye.
Julie.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Rig. Aye. Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on to our next order of business, FY 24-016, transfer order sewer wastewater treatment facility phase 1. Lori, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, so this is also something that we've been building towards with the new sewer plant, phase 1 in progress. As most of you know, and for the new members, The council has approved, borrowing up to 43 million for the phase one of the new sewer treatment plant. So part of that, process is we're lucky to have been chosen to get loan forgiveness on the original loan from the SRF. But the SRF is a special revolving fund, which the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, there's all these acronyms with this agency, as you'll find out. But one of the things with ARPA money coming through the federal government, they allowed the state revolving funds and funds to approve certain related projects, such as our treatment plant, to get loan forgiveness, which is a savings to the town for about $5 million. And we were also recently, in the summer of this year, were approved for 0% interest on this $40 million loan. So that's another savings to the town for $5 million. And that was because of some of the ARPA funds flowing through the state. So that all being said is great news for the town. But out of the project, there were certain things that the SRF funding wouldn't cover that the town would be responsible for. And the total of that was about 2.7 million. So we funded 2 million of that already in slow increments. So this 800,000 will get us up to the uncovered SRF loan eligible reimbursements. So this will be the town's portion of what the loan that we're getting will cover. So I know it sounds a little confusing, but the way the municipal finance works with the DEP and all the agencies, there's a lot of criteria, there's a lot of requirements, there's a lot of, certain land use zones have to do with that. There's all this things that the DEP requirements are put in the town, but the good news to the town of Bridgewater is that we are saving $10 million just for this phase one. That would actually be passed down to the user. So
Okay, so
800,000 will get us right through up to speed phase one anyway. So
Do you know when phase one is going to be completed or started? Or how far into phase one are we? Or what is the time frame of the project and things like that?
great question, Julie. So we're about 60% done with phase one. With the winter, I think the contractors over at the plant, I don't know how they slow down. I guess it depends on the weather, but they expect to be completed by the end of June. And you will see coming before you just the initial preliminary stages of phase two. So that's another big chunk of change, but it's the infrastructure that has been needlessly put off. So I'm just trying to catch it all up.
Right, so are we paying as it's completed, or like you said, we'll see the initial, or before it started and then completed, or how does that work?
So the loan hasn't been, once the loan is closed, which we expect it to close at the end of June when the project's complete,
Mhm.
and the town has to pay back, debt service. So we pay it back in principal and interest, which we won't have to do interest. There'll be an admin fee and then a principal due. So that will start in the FY25 budget. So that's why we'll come before you. You'll see a slight increase in the sewer rates. And as you all know, there was an increase in the water rates. But because we didn't have to close on the loan in this fiscal year, that's why we kind of held off, putting those rates into effect. So you'll see.
You anticipated my next question about that, so thank you. Okay.
So you'll see, and there'll be a presentation on how the rates will be, what we've had a rate study done by a consultant, and also, we did it in-house, so we can show you all that information as we move up to it.
Thank you.
I have a question.
yes, Ray, please.
Lori, can you speak to, what protection to the town in terms of something goes wrong or something breaks down? Is there a warranty? Do we have insurance to cover you know, 40, you said 43 million, that's not, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
I just want to understand what protection has the town put in place for taxpayers, you know, make sure that the contractor who is handling all of this, you know, that if something should go wrong, that taxpayers won't have to come out of pocket again, but in fact, we're covered. And if you could talk, if you could speak to what's the length of time are we covered for?
yeah, so that's a great question. I don't know if I can go to the exact time frame of everything, but I do know that the awards of the bids of the contracts and what the contractors have to put up as far as you know, bonds and you know, the certificates of liability. There's like so many steps that they have to go through, you know, for procurement for any public building. So the town does have that protection of, you know, the project doesn't close out until every single, part of the checklist is ticked and tied, everything is inspected, you know, it's constantly being overseen. That's why, you know, we've hired a consultant who that's their job, is they work on these, buildings for, wastewater and well, you know, this is the sewer plant, so that's all they do is see this kind of work, so, you know, they're paid accordingly, they're insured properly, and everything is has to be up to code, you know, the state doesn't allow us to not be, especially with the, like I mentioned, the SRF fund, so that goes through, the, what do you call it? Special revolving fund, so that's another acronym is MCWT, the Mass Clean Water Trust, who oversees the whole DEP and all the financing of it all. They're checking, there's a member of, there's probably 2 or 3 members of that agency that's in all the, you know, biweekly, I think they need biweekly calls. And they're always making sure that, you know, they're not gonna give us money if, you know, if it's not up to code, up to checking all the lists, all up to their standards, state, federal, you know, so. And the contractors have to go through a really thick process as well, so.
Okay, I have a follow-up question if I may. Well, so has it been projected in terms of, you know, what's the length of time for which taxpayers are responsible for this until the loan is paid up? And then is it the town's expectation that there's going to be a tax break once the loan has been paid up, or is it the town's expectation that, you know, because we've increased the cost, we're going to stay status quo?
Yeah, I mean, that's great question. So we do project out most of the, I think the special revolving loans are, they're 20 years out. So it'll be paid off in 20 years, and what that does is, you know, the debt service is calculated into a projection of, you know, 20 years out, right? For everything that we're paying for, as well as your operation expenditure. So once the loans drop off, obviously there's more, you know, if the rates are still going and remain fine, and the debt's coming off, you know, you're building your reserves and retained earnings, and that always can be used to offset the rates. I mean, that's what it's for. The user rates just keep on paying for the whole operation. So if the expenditures of any debt service drops down, you know, that makes an opportunity definitely to help out the taxpayer, or, you know, put towards other infrastructure things that may be going on at the time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes, Steve, please.
As a newer member, probably a basic question to all you guys, but is there more than one sewer waste water treatment in Bridgewater? I think I know of one on Carver Street. I thought there was one on High Street, and I think there's one off Plymouth Street. This is a basic question. I'm not sure this is the forum for it, but I'd love that answer.
Yeah, those are wellheads, right?
Those are water treatment plants. the wastewater treatment plant, I think it's the only one, but I honestly don't know. Shelley, do you know? I think we only have one wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, as far as I know, we have the one on Morris
it-
Avenue.
Yep.
And that's it.
But those other plants, those are all well, treatment.
Okay.
They're all different wells that support, the infrastructure of the town. They do, High Street being the one that was just worked on, big one.
Okay, if I could follow up, where is this wastewater treatment located?
It's on Morris Ave, which is right off of Plymouth Street, going right down towards,
If you went past Spring Street, Steve, and you were heading towards like Halifax, it'd be on your
Pimlico
left.
Village.
Yeah, before the village, yeah. There's a
Okay.
little small dead end right there, Morris Avenue.
And my last question, if I could, the sewer wastewater treatment, I'm a realtor in town and I know a lot of residences have septic systems. Does this benefit the college and the prison? Is this a primary wastewater treatment for both of those facilities?
I don't know, I think. the prison-
Just for the university.
Yeah,
It's just for the university, and there's talk actually, Steve, in the future of them creating their own system, so we can expand ours. So
Great
we,
information, thank you.
all right.
people
I
that.
don't know if I'm getting the feedback. Do other people hear that,
Mm,
or is it just me?
There's a little bit of feedback.
Yeah.
is that for Me, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from.
I broke my earphones today, it got stuck in my ear.
Yeah, the college does use it, Steve,
Yeah,
but they also do pay the town to use it.
right, they're a user on a certain tier, which is a little more expensive than the regular users, so there's like 3 tiers of rates. And the college and the businesses have different rates. And anyone that does have a septic system, they're not part of the sewer system, so they wouldn't be paying any kind of sewer. Any sewer rates, so they're not in the town sewer, so they don't have, they obviously don't have to pay.
Understood, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good questions, everyone. I know I will say, as a sewer user in town here, that I have been appreciative of the efforts of the town to work on the rates, because we were all hit on the water side. Here in the future, so I guess it could have been worse for the rate users in town here. Or it could have been a little more of a shock up front, right? Be a better way to put it.
Yeah, it's like 2/3 water, 1/3 sewer.
And we have to do it.
Yeah.
It has to be done, federal mandate, so. Okay, anybody else? Any questions, comments they'd like to make? Had a lot of great questions on this subject. It is a lot of money.
Motion to approve. If there are no,
Second?
Thank you, Ray. MJ, G second?
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you. If you could do a roll call, please, Josh?
Nate,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye,
Catherine,
Aye.
Rig.
aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Next order of business, FY 24-017, fiscal year 2024 classification tax allocation, adoption of residential faxer. Sounds big and scary, but fortunately we have Shelley here. She is the town's chief assessor. And Shelley, I'll yield the floor to you. We do have some newer members here. This is an interesting subject. So if you can take it away and kind of
Okay.
give us an overview of the residential tax factor.
Okay, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Shelley McCauley. I'm the chief assessor for the town of Bridgewater. So tonight, at a minimum, the town council must determine a residential factor, which will determine whether the town will have a split rate for its residential class and commercial and industrial and personal property classes. although there is an option to provide a separate open space discount under that statute, as well as a residential exemption and small commercial exemption. Tonight, I will only be discussing the residential factor. As noted, town council must decide the percentages of the tax levy each class of real property and personal property will bear each year. To do so, a residential factor is adopted. The residential factor governs how much the residential and open space classes tax burden, RO property tax burden may decrease, and consequently how much the commercial, industrial, and personal property classes may increase. The adopted factor cannot be less than the minimum residential factor, which is called the MRF, calculated by the DOR. The MRF for fiscal year 2004 is 91.2589, and it represents the maximum shift allowed in the tax levy for the year and establishes the perimeter for local decision-making. I have provided a calculation. Did everyone get the pamphlet I sent out? I don't know. Okay. I did send out a pamphlet, and it had a shift range from 1 to 1.50 in increments of 5% to illustrate the respective shares of the tax burden and the anticipated tax rates for each class. When there is a shift in the percentage of total taxable value between the property classes, RO and SIP, it affects the total amount of taxes paid by each class. So the higher the percentage of total taxable value for a property class, the higher the amount of taxes paid by that class. Conversely, the lower the percentage of total taxable value for a class of property, the lower the amount of taxes paid by that class. It is important to note that although the council is effectively choosing the SIP factor, it is technically selecting the residential factor. If a factor of 1 is adopted, the tax rate would be the same for all classes. This rate is determined by dividing the tax levy by the total value of taxable property in Bridgewater and then multiplying that result by 1,000. The estimated tax rate for fiscal year 2024 is 12.14. This year's levy is $58,483,681, and the value of the town is $4,817,436,670, which equals 0.01214 multiplied by 1,000 equals an estimated tax rate of 12.14. If the tax rate of 12.14 is approved by the Bureau of Accounts, the average single-family tax bill for fiscal year 2024 will be $6,808, up from $6,696 in 2023, which is an increase of $112. And that's it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question to ask Shelley.
Okay, MJ.
Go ahead, MJ.
Thanks, Nate.
Sorry.
Shelley, based upon the tax rate proposal, that $12 amount, what's the average house price valuation looking like right now?
It's 560. Hold on, I gotta see my papers. 560,812, I think it was.
And
oh, wait a minute, it's on the back here. 560,826.
And is that higher or lower than last fiscal year? I can't remember.
Last year was 521,524.
Okay, so everybody's valuations went up.
So it went up 7.54%.
Okay. And I'm not sure if it would be germane to the topic right now. New growth, have we factored that as well?
Yeah, that came in at $1,018,521 this year.
And I want to say that's a little higher than last year.
Lower.
Oh, lower.
262,475 lower.
All right.
And just so you know, too, commercial is taking a pretty big increase this year. Their last year assessment was $847,545. This year is $1,039,527. So it's an increase of 22.65%.
Okay. Have we had a lot of home sales in the last year or a lot of commercial sales in the last year? Because that tells me the market's pretty good right now for sellers, not necessarily buyers.
Right, we had, actually, we had a lot of sales in commercial. Big ones are the warehouses, industrial warehouses everywhere. Their values have quadrupled. It's really, Scotland Boulevard, one company bought up 5 of them. The same company that built up over on Bedford Street.
No, really?
Yeah, so,
Like- Head Park and stuff there.
do you know where Fireworks Circle is, that new building across from there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, what is the percentage now of the tax base in town, Shelley, that is commercial / industrial / what percentage do they contribute?
they're 14.88, and last year they were 12 something, so it did go up. Industrial class took about a 2% hike this year. Residential was paying 87.01 last year of the tax levy, and this year they're paying 85.12. So almost 2% less of the levy.
So it looks
Which-
like so, Mr. Chairman, it looks like some of the tax burden's actually been moved on to the commercial side of things as opposed to residential.
Yeah, that's-
Industrial, yeah.
and that's the first time I have heard that in the 10 years on my committee, you know, honestly.
First
And,
time I've heard in decades.
and that is a good direction to go in, you know, obviously splitting it is way too premature even at this time.
Mhm.
But it'd be nice to be in Rainham's shoes someday, you know, a little bit. All right, but no, that is good news. That shows that a lot of different policies in town are kind of coming together, shifting some of that tax burden off the residential taxpayers.
Well, we do say that, but then I'm trying to think, I'm trying to see what Rainham paid. Last year, Rainham's tax bill was $6,568, and ours was $6,696, so it was pretty close. That's what their average tax bill was.
Yep, that is.
Mhm.
Okay.
East
Kelly,
Bridgewater
if
is
I could-
higher, Halifax is higher.
But how is that in proportion to the price, their home prices?
Yeah,
You
so
know what I
Rainham,
mean?
yeah, so Rainham's last year was 482, almost 483, and we were 521. And their residential rate was 1360 and ours was 1284.
So Shelley, did I hear you correctly that the tax rate is going to decrease in 24? For the
Correct.
residential?
Yes,
So currently it's 12.84 per thousand. What
correct.
do you anticipate? Yeah,
1214.
14, thank you.
It
Right.
still has to be approved through the DOR, but
Right.
Okay, thanks, every great question so far. Do we have any other questions, comments?
I did have another question, Mr. Chair, but I'm not sure if it would be germane to the conversation tonight. It might be more of a question for Laurie.
Okay, throw it out there.
Just so I know, for the recap, did we already get our certified cash numbers from DOR?
yeah, we got free cash, yeah.
Free cash, yeah, that was done in September.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't think I have any other questions at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, Rick, please.
I'm just curious to know, Shelley, or Laurie, if you could speak to, you know, the exemption component of this, even though it sounds like, if I heard correctly, residential taxes are gonna go down. What exemptions are in place, you know, to support taxpayers, even though taxes are gonna go down, to support taxpayers who still can't pay their taxes? If you can just speak to that.
Okay, well, you have a couple of things you could do. Like I said, there are other exemptions out there that we have never adopted. I think only one town ever adopted the open space discount. But the residential exemption, it's not more than 35% of the average assessed value of all of the class 1. The residential parcels applied to the residential parcels that are the principal residents of the property taxpayer. This exemption shifts the tax burden within the residential class only and has only been adopted by 15 communities. And then we also have the small commercial exemption, which I don't think you'll be interested in. But as far as a personal property exemption per taxpayer, you'd have to qualify.
Okay.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, you know, for any taxpayers who, you know, just simply cannot afford, I'm just trying to identify what are the exemptions that exist in Bridgewater, you know, as a town / city. That's all.
Oh, well, it's statewide. Everyone has the same exemptions. We may have different amounts that they're eligible for.
Okay.
But I thought you were talking about what's called the residential exemption. Like Waltham does it. Some of the Cape towns do it. Boston does it because they have a lot of rentals there.
Yeah.
So that's what it shifts those from the primary residence, and it shifts over so that like if your primary residence in Waltham, you would pay less than someone that had a rental property.
Okay.
That's what's called a residential exemption, and that's across the board. That
Okay.
would be everyone in town. But an individual exemption, you'd really, unfortunately, have to be pretty destitute. I think this year it's about 18,000 for a single and about 22,000 for a married couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is definitely good to know. And then for any farms that are in Bridgewater, and I'm relatively new to Bridgewater, going on what, 3 years, so still new to me. The farms that are in town, are they considered commercial or they're considered residential? I'm just trying to understand how they're
Well,
classified.
we only have one tax rate, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But they do fall under the commercial tax rate.
Okay.
But we only have one tax rate in town.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question though, Rig. I never considered what the farms, what side they would fall under, at least. Okay, any other questions, thoughts, comments?
I do have one more question. I apologize.
All right, good.
Versus last year for this year, Shelley, how much do we have in abatements that are going to be on real estate taxes, like senior exemption, senior abatement, or disabled veterans? Do we have more people applying for them, or we had less?
We have about the same. We are having a lot of veterans though lately, and we're up to about 10 full abatements now. So that it's surviving spouse of a veteran that's been killed in action or died as a result of combat. There's, I think now 10 full exemptions.
And do we have any for is it partial disability or 100% disability as well? I'm not thinking service connected exemption, but I'm thinking for individuals who may have a disability like blind or blind
is, we have one for the blind, 500, and we have the vets 10% to 99 is 400, 1,000 for 100, and then you have loss of foot, loss of sight, adaptable housing. There's about 10 other exemptions too, all different amounts, from 750 to full.
And grand total of how much is the Board of Assessors abating this year then?
That's a good question. I just passed in the form. I think it was about 165, Larry. Somewhere around there, if I can remember right. I see so many numbers all the time, so I can get back to you and let you know that if you need to.
Just something for information for residents and also for members of the committee, because I know that's certainly a big question sometimes during the tax process is are folks actually utilizing what may be available to them, especially if they have a service connected disability or if they are an individual who is 100% blind and could certainly use that.
We mail them out every year to them.
Yeah,
we mail them out to all our taxpayers.
And it's usually, the applications are usually due by July or August 1st.
February 1st.
February 1st.
No, April 1st. I'm sorry. They're due April 1st.
Okay.
Unless it's a holiday, then
Mhm.
it's due on the Monday after. February 1st is the tax bills are due and the abatement applications are due. Exemptions are due April 1st.
That's-
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I had my dates confused too, and I feel you on seeing lots of numbers. I do it in my everyday business as a tax collector.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, not hearing anything, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ.
Second,
Second from Julie. Thank you, Julie. Josh, if we could do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
aye.
Jim. Aye. Steve,
Aye.
thank you. Catherine,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to our last new business for the evening, resolution FY 24-004, fiscal year 2025 budget resolution. First thing I want to say for new members is that this is not the budget at all, right here. What this really is, this was created maybe, we started using this, I want to say 5 to 6 years ago. Former council of town, Bill Wood came up with it. And what this really is sort of a guide for this committee, for the town council's budget subcommittee, for the town council, for the town manager, everybody involved in the process. So as we start to work on FY 2025, we will use this document here as like the general framework of what the town will be trying to accomplish during that budget. I hope that made sense. So if we do have any questions, and over the years, we've made some minor suggestions, changes here and there to this. But really overall, this is really just sort of a guidepost for us moving forward as we work on this budget. Anybody have questions, comments? Lori, do you want to add anything to those comments?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so this is really just the first step in the from the council to the town manager and the staff of what the direction of the goals for the next fiscal year will be. So like Nate said, it's you know, we've been approved it year after year. We tried to, you know, collaboratively work with the school department with, you know, this resolution. With our departments, you know, we're building our capital into this resolution, so we're trying to like build a, you know, financially stable model going forward, and we think having this to start us off is a good method to go forward, so.
Okay, thank you, Lori. You know, one thing I was thinking of, Lori, this is kind of on the same subject because, you know, this is the first step really in this process. In the past, you know, Tony and I had just started doing it and we created a budget and capital schedule that was shared with this committee, with the budget subcommittee, town council. It kind of just kept, it was another way of keeping everybody on the page. And it was also just a good reference point. As we move through the budget committee season to see what the different steps are in the budget process. So if we could, you know, if your department could do that for us again, that would be awesome.
Yeah, we actually were talking about it today, Kim and Michael, what our target dates are. So yeah, we will be publishing that so that we can kind of have and timelines so that you're all aware of, you know, each step in the process and, you know, ultimately when we want to have our budget ready, so.
Okay, if I found that to be a very helpful tool, just like this budget resolution. Okay.
Great.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions, comments, thoughts about this year's budget resolution? Julie?
So are we gonna come up with a number? That number that, sometimes it's 1.5, sometimes it's
Yeah.
1.25. At what point will we come up with that number for the reserve?
I believe I see it in here and it's 2%, right? Projected revenue surplus shall be set at 2% of the 2025 operating budget.
And how does that compare to other years? Because I feel like that's higher. Is there a reason why it's higher?
You know what? I don't know if it's higher, Julie. I think at one point we did step it back to 1.5.
Right, that's what I recall.
That was more during the COVID time, if I remember correctly, because we were so unsure of what revenue would look like. So just so we didn't, squeeze departments, we set that percentage at 1.5%. And then we had discussion, was it last year or maybe the year before, and we reset it back at 2% because we felt the town was back on solid financial footing. And we were in a position to try to save more money.
Yeah, I'll just make the point that the 2% is there for reserves and in for our capital outlays. So we've had a lot of, as you've known over the last 5 years, a lot of capital purchases and improvements, and so that's really what this is going towards. Basically, we're hoping to get a good number to put away, not only in the stabilization fund, but also help with the capital needs of the town.
And just so people know, we're talking about 3, revenue, and section D.
Right, so how will we determine, or when will we determine how much will go towards capital versus how much will go towards the true operate, because once a capital thing is done, obviously the money has to come from somewhere, right? So do we,
We like to have our stabilization fund at 10% of our operating budget, so whatever that number is, then we look to see with the capital plan that we put out there, and the major things coming up. We know roadways is a big one, so we know we gotta really step it up, and we've been saying this for I know since I've been here the last 3 or 4 years, we really needed to put the roadways in the front, and now we have no choice. So really, the target for this upcoming capital.
Right, so everyone understands. So it is a target, and if the budget doesn't get it, it's percentage of whatever the budget's approved for, correct? And not necessarily, and we hope that it's enough, is that?
Right, we're giving it a little bit, because we do conservatively estimate our revenues. So we're trying to keep that policy in place, so some people agree with it. And
yeah, I kind of remember being on the subcommittee with Mr. Gallagher and a couple other people.
Well, we
want to make sure that we spend what we need to spend too, and not just save for.
I don't want to estimate too high and then go back to where we were 10 years ago and have negative free cash, meaning we didn't have enough in our estimates to even make it through the year. So that's not good.
Pay the bills. Yeah, and again, Julie, this is just sort of a guidepost. It's not set in stone here, and that number can be adjusted.
Okay. And I like the way you called me out. Julie, question.
Come on, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be a budget resolution without you. So, all right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts about the budget resolution for FY 2025?
I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Before COVID or during COVID, you said it was set at 1.5. What was it before COVID? What has it always been 2%?
Well, you know what, Rig, at one point there was 0%. Okay, so this was a saving mechanism that I think Tony and Mr. Dutton, if I remember correctly, came up with, and the town council. I don't know how long ago it was. The resolution is probably about 5-6 years old, I'd say, Rig. So this was a way to start saving money, build capital reserves, essentially just kind of be like Lori was saying, be conservative,
Yeah.
kind of.
Okay.
Right, but Rick, are you asking that, I mean, COVID's, that's almost 4 years old now, like as of February, come March, it'll be 4 years, right? So, and if you're saying this is like 6 years old, so then there were only 2 years that we might have had a different number, right? I understand that prior to this resolution, we might have been at 0.
Yeah, well, we
But
didn't.
Rick, I think we were more like 1.5, 1.25.
The town didn't do anything, but the original target was 2%, Julie.
Right, the
and we-
target, correct.
Yep, and the target was reduced during the COVID years when there was so much uncertainty to 1.5. Just to try to keep saving, even though we were unsure of the finances. And then we had the discussions and it went back to the target of 2%.
Okay.
But there was so much uncertainty during those COVID years when nobody knew how, people weren't getting paid. So we were so unsure of how that would impact the town budget during that time period. And again, it's just a target in the budget in this part here too, Julie, right? We get working on the budget and see.
Time will tell.
That's right. That's exactly right. Okay, anybody else? Thoughts? Good question, Ray. Thank you.
Just one comment I have.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, please, Jim.
On page 10 in the bold, FY 2023 town manager's budget objectives is what's written. Should it be FY 2025 town manager's budget objectives, or?
Yeah, that's a typo.
Oh, thanks for pointing that out. Yep.
I don't know if that matters, but I just
Yep.
noticed it.
No, we do appreciate the detail. It's a professional document.
Yeah, I think Josh, can you just mention that to Debbie, for when it goes? to the
Yep.
town?
Great catch, Jim. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Josh, roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to additional items for discussion. This is a report of the Finance Subcommittee. This subcommittee was created, well, you can see how good I am with dates and years and stuff. I'm just gonna let the chair of the subcommittee, MJ, get us up to speed. Give the new members kind of a brief synopsis of how this came about and where we stand right now, please.
Will do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. New members of the committee, first and foremost, welcome, and I hope we haven't scared you off just yet. And congrats on your first votes being on the committee. So we look forward to having you at more meetings. That'll help us keep our quorum up. I'm happy to say I have Rig with me tonight as well, and he can help also supply any information I may miss, because it's been a while since we started this committee. So let's do the too long didn't read part, the TLDR, as it were. So our subcommittee was formed in the spring of this year to address a legislative item that came to us from the council as a result of an attempt to cooperate with the Bridgewater-Rainham School District. And our goal was to review this legislation to try to find a way to enmesh it in with how the town operates, so that both the school and the town can operate and have the same type of page. The issue for us is over a couple of meetings, we tried to get some information from the school district. What we got wasn't necessarily the best amount of data that we could get, and further requests for folks from the school committee to come in and meet with us, or folks from the school district to come to meet with us. Even though there's been a standing invitation, we haven't really had anybody really come before us, and the subcommittee meetings that we have held I think Rig, the last one we had was what, mid-July? Yeah, mid-July thereabouts. And at this point, both I myself and, you know, the other members of the committee, Rig and Eric, we are sort of at an impasse, and we're looking for guidance from the committee in whole as to how we should pursue forward. My personal take on it as a member of a finance committee, so it's more of a finance committee type view. My view is that the measure as it was given to us is still flawed, but in the absence of additional understanding and feedback from those that basically asked the town to pass it, we're very much, our hands are tied as to how we can proceed forward and say to the town, yes, by all means, pass it with these changes, A, B, and C, but we can't get to A, B, and C, or even to tell the council, you know, go ahead with it without some feedback from the school district and perhaps the staff that may have submitted it to the council to have it approved. It's been very difficult. And right now, barring any other massive change, denouement, we're pretty much sitting in the water without a paddle. And Rig, if you can back me up on that a little bit, then you know, if there's anything I missed, by all means, please share it with the membership, because some days I'm having trouble remembering my own name.
That's fair. Me too. Welcome, Catherine. How are you? So what it comes down to really is, you know, just putting together an expenditure policy, right? So as funds are approved, you know, we want to be able to ensure that those funds are going to be used for whatever project, whatever it is that it's approved for. This came about to our attention. This came about as a result of some funds that were approved, you know, to the school committee, and the school committee ultimately did not use those funds for that specific project. And my understanding, if my memory serves me correct, is that they ultimately went back to the town and said, hey, you know, we're not using these funds. We actually have it in our budget. So somewhere, somehow the communication had dropped.
There was a disconnect.
There was certainly a disconnect. Now, in all fairness to the school committee, they did their part in terms of notifying the town, letting the town know that we're not going to use these funds that were approved to do said project. You guys take those funds back. Obviously, I think it was former council,
It was Councilor, I think it was Councilor Wood.
I think so too, yep.
Yep. So it was former council Woods. He had presented to this committee a you know, this policy, and we wanted to explore further, you know, and expand upon this policy. So as the subcommittee, we went out and we wanted to hear directly from the school department, who therefore sort of gave us this, you know, whatever it was that they gave us, which we really could not fully understand the information that they gave us. It didn't boil down to, here's what happens if budget has been approved to do this said project, that in the event that the budget in the event that the project has not been completed, or the budget has not been used, what happens to those funds. We just want to make sure that if this policy, I'm sorry, let me go back. We just want to make sure that this policy is leveraged across the board, where funds that are being approved will certainly be used for said project, and no individual leadership department, whether it be the school department or fire department, whoever is in leadership that receives town taxpayer dollars, that they can't arbitrarily use those funds for something else.
It was to create basically a fiduciary trust between the two entities, and the information that we got from a public records request that I had sent out on behalf of the committee after some input, we generally got, if I remember correctly, I believe we basically got a restatement of Massachusetts general law from, I think, chapter 57, as it relates to how a school district is basically, you know, it's an entity unto its own. It can do its own budgeting and whatnot. It did not give us any idea as to how capital expenditures were addressed, budgeted, not budgeted, or the funds returned to the municipality sending the funding. In this case, it would be both towns of Bridgewater and the towns of Rainham. But on our side of things, the records request just did not provide the salient details we needed to be able to go through the proposal that Councilor Wood had given us and say, okay, this point here relates to this part of BR's capital expenditure policy, or their capital, you know, their long-term capital plan, or their budget finance policy. It just didn't generate that knowledge to us. And upon trying to seek out someone from the school district, actually, Josh, if you can maybe help me on it, I believe it was somebody in the business office we were supposed to try to reach out to, and we never heard anything back from them. But
Yeah.
ultimately, we've indicated to the school district on this that basically our committees are open. We always ask, and there's supposed to be a standing invitation, and as a courtesy, we extend that invitation to the school committee, especially to the liaison on the committee who is supposed to come to the finance committee meetings, and we have not had that happen. And based upon what Rig said, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we still need that without the proper context, we really can't go forward and say to the town, this is how our policy and our capital expenditures work. This is what will happen in situation A, B, or C as it relates to, we budget something for Bridgewater Rainham School District for a specific project. Okay, if they have the monies in their excess and deficiencies account, which is basically their version of free cash, per chapter 57, that's basically what free cash is called for on the school district side. On the municipal side, it's called free cash. So if they perhaps had an additional amount of money left in their excess and deficiency account and used it for said capital project, what happens to the funding? Because under law right now, as it stands, any funding a municipality provides to a school district, because a school district is a municipality unto its own by purpose of the law, that money doesn't necessarily have to come back to them. It does not necessarily have to be returned without any other type of mechanism as a standing policy to say, you know, you get budgeted $150,000 for basketball replacement, and you know, you find in your excess deficiency account $150,000 to replace the basketball court. Does that fix that project? Does that $150,000 come back to the town that sent it, or does it get reallocated into the existing school department budget? And that was something that we were trying to figure out and have an answer to, but you know, these months later, it has unfortunately not gotten to that point. And help me out with this, Ray, possibly. We're at the point where if we can't really get that done, we really are sort of forced to say, we're basically going to say to the committee, we may just have to table this until the proposal comes up again at some point in the future with further information.
Okay. All right, so we wouldn't want to table, I think we just want to continue it, correct, would be the correct way to do it.
Yeah,
It's really, some of these questions you're asking, you would think that a parent at a school committee meeting could get answered, right? But I know it is a little, the regional system it's almost like there's Bridgewater, there's Rainham, and then there's the BR school district.
It's a municipality unto its own, and by operation of law, you know, I've tried to read up on it just from the accounting standpoint, because as an assistant tax collector, it may not necessarily be my wheelhouse, but I like to understand these things because I work in a municipality. I may not work with a town that has a school district, but I live in a town that has a school district. So I want to be able to understand how things financially are going to work if I'm going to be a person on a fiduciary committee of sorts to ensure that our finances are not only well managed and implemented, but that we're providing the correct funding to a school district. I need the communication from the school district. And I know I speak for the members of the committee when we say we need the openness and transparency.
Yeah. Now, is there a liaison on the committee? I know that we used to always have,
Used to
I
be,
believe it's Kathy Martelli and Tim Fitzgibbons this year, right,
Is it?
Josh?
Yeah, and they get invited to each meeting. They're
All right.
included on the email list.
yeah, who was it? Geez, who was it that was before?
It was Michael Dolan.
Thank you. Yeah, Michael, he was at all.
Mike and
that-
Lil, yeah, they
Yep.
were pretty good.
Yeah, they were always here. Now it is also, this committee could do the same thing. And we could have somebody that is a liaison to their committee. If there is somebody that would be interested, we could explore that. If somebody would be interested in being that liaison, you can reach out to the chair through the secretary after the meeting. But that's something we've discussed too, But I hear your frustration. And it does sound like, and I saw all the work that the subcommittee did. And Eric's the third member of that subcommittee. I saw those requests for information, the communications, and I know, I know that you certainly tried your hardest.
yeah, it's unfortunate, Mr. Chairman, because just as a person, for disclosure for the public, I've lived in town for almost 40 years. I am a former student of the Bridgewater Rainham School District from elementary, actually from kindergarten all the way up to high school. And I know there have been not necessarily, I wouldn't really put it in the realm of politics. I would put it more in the realm of maybe misunderstandings here and there along the way when it came to things with the schools. And the thing that I'm finding is those types of situations have never necessarily gone away, but they've also never necessarily changed for the worse. They've just stayed the same. And to have the outcome that we're having right now on our subcommittee after the work that we've done, and I'm going to be honest, I've really enjoyed working with Rig and Eric on this, because a lot of the stuff I sent out was from their input, and I just wanted to at least see something be fruitful from our endeavor to try to help out the town. And it's frustrating. It's genuinely frustrating to see myself and my colleagues on our subcommittee encounter this and not be able to provide something as a workable product for you, Mr. Chairman, and the membership of the committee in whole. It's upsetting from a procedural standpoint, and as a public servant, it's disappointing.
Yeah,
Not
but,
upsetting, it's not angering, it's disappointing.
I can hear it, and I can feel it myself. I think what we should do is let's continue this. Let's move it to old business right now, so it stays on the agenda.
Mhm.
So if we do have some sort of breakthrough in communications, we can pick it back up.
Mhm.
You had mentioned that you thought maybe the legislation was flawed. In which way, MJ?
In the regard that without the input from the school district,
Okay, yeah.
but with the result of not necessarily the beneficial result of our public records request, and then the subsequent materials that were then duly given to us, it really felt like incomplete. It didn't give us the full picture. It didn't give us the total understanding of what we needed to do to go and peruse it, look it over, take notes, and say, okay, well, this part of that legislation, we can remove section B and amend it with this sentence, or we
Okay,
can
yeah.
change it in section C.
Yeah.
It just didn't allow us that opportunity to go in under the hood and take apart everything.
Yeah, to even look at. Okay, I get it.
Can I offer some additional thoughts? Because
Sure, Rick.
I've been thinking about this, similar to MJ. I guess the additional thoughts that I have, the first is, is it possible that we can get a copy of the initial write-up that Council Woods initially provided us prior to his stepping down, or not wanting to be reelected? I think it will be helpful, particularly given that Catherine is relatively new and there's quite a few new folks, just in case they don't have it. That's number one. The second thought that I have is perhaps extend another hard invitation for them to participate in an early meeting in early next year, 2024. And then the third thought that I have is whether or not they, a member or representative for the school committee decides, whether or not they decide to come on and speak upon this, so that we can have a better understanding on, you know, sort of their own policy to see if their policy matches whatever we might have currently. I would recommend that, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that as a committee, we can also offer policy or legislations. I'm not sure if I'm calling it correctly, but we can kind of build off of what Council Woods had initially presented, and then present that to town council for them to either expand upon, approve. So really taking a proactive approach, and start carving out some language that says, this is what we're looking for in the event that we approve budget. This is what the expectation is on behalf of taxpayers for Bridgewater Rainham.
All right, you know, into your last point, Rig, this committee certainly can suggest legislation to the town council. We have no executive power, obviously. We can just make a recommendation.
Yep.
And partially, you know, that was one of the reasons why we took this up. Because in some ways, the town council, the budget subcommittee asked us to kind of frame a policy around this a little bit and give them a recommendation. I like your idea. Yeah, I don't think we should just, you know, even though we're going to put it on old business and continue it, we should keep trying moving forward. Yeah, try to have another subcommittee meeting first of the year and see if you can get a member of the school committee to join you. If you need the help from the chair, I'll certainly do whatever I can to see if I can to help out. But I think your first 2 points were very valid too, Rig. Yes.
And actually, I'm trying to look at the schedule. I know we had our subcommittee meetings on Tuesdays. I'm looking at January right now. I'm thinking, can't remember when the holiday is in January. But I'm thinking, Ray, do you feel comfortable with January 9th at 7?
Yeah,
It's a Tuesday.
I can make that work.
Yeah. All right, then, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, can I ask Josh to set up a time for us for Tuesday, January 9th for our subcommittee meeting?
Yes, please, Josh, can you do that for them?
Yep.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm glad we got caught up on that. We just so many things been happening and it keeps getting kind of moved along. I'm glad. It's an important, I believe, that we try our best to get our hands around this. All right, it's 8:41. We've been here an hour and 15. So I would like to move on. Do we have any other topics? Just anything anybody would like to bring up real quick? Okay, not hearing anything. If we have nothing else, our favorite motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, MJ. The second from Rig. Okay, thank you.
My favorite motion.
Everybody's favorite motion. Yeah, you don't want that, MJ. Josh, if we could do a roll call.
Nate,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay. Oh, hey, real quick. Next meeting. Hello.
Yeah, how did I know
Um,
that's your name?
I know, Julie, you usually remind me. Next meeting, what would we be looking at? We got the holidays coming up here quickly.
Well, town council meets tomorrow, and we can assess what, I'm not sure. Lori, do you know if there's anything being referred?
I'm not sure. I know they meet again on the 19th.
Did I say tomorrow?
Oh, they meet tomorrow too, but.
Yep.
Sure, I didn't even look at their agenda yet, honestly.
Okay, well, I guess if there's anything mission critical, then we'd be looking at the 18th, or no. Yeah,
Um,
We'd probably be looking at
if
Tuesday,
they referred
26th.
anything, if they referred anything tomorrow, I could schedule for the 11th.
For the
So
11th.
it's not too close to the holiday.
Okay, well, okay,
Yeah,
let's,
the 18th, that's Martin Luther King Day, isn't it anyways? I don't know.
No,
January.
that's in January.
Yeah. 16th then, right? I'm way ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
January 15th is MLK Day.
There we go. Just keep that in mind, because then you got two Monday holidays in January,
In
right?
January, okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so Josh, let's just do that, everybody. We may have to meet the 11th. But let's see what comes out of town council, if anything's referred to us.
I'm just looking at the agenda right now. I'll just look at that. Is an acceptance of a gift and an eminent domain order for Broad Street. So there will be a couple of things, but
Nothing super mission critical though. Okay, but like Julie said, we got a whole bunch of Mondays coming up here. We gotta be off. Okay, so we may have to meet again next Monday, just real quick to pass a couple of quick things. Nothing sounding controversial though. Okay. All right, so Josh, if you want to finish saying adjourned.
Okay, the meeting's adjourned.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.